All right, so we're diving into Fateforge Chronicles of Kajan, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the gameplay, getting you familiar with how everything works, all the flow and mechanics so you can jump right into the action. Think of this deep dive as your express ticket to understanding how that awesome story and the combat and that character building all come together.
Yeah, it's a really cool mix. Fateforge blends those exciting story moments with tactical combat, on a dynamic map, and it's all driven by that companion app, which keeps things moving and throws some surprises at you.
Okay, so the game is set up, and we're ready to go. First things first, the game is structured around three main scene types: story scenes, combat scenes, and rest scenes. Each one offers a unique challenge and influences how you develop your hero.
Yeah, you can think of these scenes like chapters in an unfolding adventure. So in story scenes, you're exploring the world, you're making decisions that impact the narrative, and you're even facing tests based on your hero's traits.
So those choices I make in the story can actually affect how combat plays out later on.
Absolutely. Your decisions can influence which enemies you face, the objectives you need to achieve, even the resources available to you.
That's awesome. Okay, so what about those combat scenes? I'm guessing those are where things get really intense.
Oh, you bet. Combat scenes are where you'll test your tactical skills. You'll be on a map divided into zones. You'll be positioning your hero, managing those dice rolls, using those results to perform actions, like attacking, using items, or even dashing to a new location.
Okay, I'm already picturing those epic battles, and I see all these cool components laid out here. We've got the hero board, dice, cards. What are those all about?
Let's start with your hero board. This is your command center. It tracks your hero's health, energy, equipment, and special abilities. It's also where you'll manage your combat dice pool. That's a set of dice representing your hero's strengths.
So each hero gets their own set of dice. What are the different colors for?
Exactly. The dice come in red, yellow, blue, and green. Red is for strength. Think powerful attacks. Yellow is for speed, so quick movements and evasive maneuvers. Blue is for ranged combat, so those long-distance attacks. And green is for intelligence, used for trickier actions, and manipulating the battlefield.
So I'm guessing different heroes will have different strengths, based on their dice colors.
You got it. Now, in addition to those basic dice, you also have skills, which are cards that modify dice results and actions. Think of them as your special moves or tactics.
Skills sound super important. Are there different types of skills?
There are. Some skills are recurring, meaning you can use them once per combat round. Others are single use for a one-time powerful effect. And then you have passive skills that are always active, providing ongoing benefits.
Wow, so much strategic depth. And I can't forget about all this cool-looking equipment. We've got swords, shields, bows. What are the different categories?
You've got primary weapons, secondary weapons, and those big, heavy weapons that take up both weapon slots. And don't forget about equipment. It provides all sorts of bonuses and special effects. You'll manage all of this gear on your hero board.
Okay, so we've got our heroes set up and ready for action. What's the basic flow of a combat scene?
Combat unfolds in rounds, each with 3 phases: preparation, action, and cleanup.
All right, let's break down those phases. What happens in the preparation phase?
This is where you get your hero ready for the round. You roll 4 dice from your pool, including any weapon dice you have equipped. And you can then choose to spend energy to reroll any misses, which can be crucial if you need specific results.
So energy is like a resource I can use to improve my chances.
Exactly. And if you're lucky enough to roll 3 of a kind, you can manipulate one of those results into any other result you need. Talk about flexibility.
That sounds super helpful. What else can I do during preparation?
Well, if you're feeling bold, you can dash. This lets you move to an adjacent zone right away. But be careful. If you dash out of a zone with enemies in it, you'll take a point of damage.
Ooh, risky, but potentially game-changing. So preparation is all about setting myself up for success. In the next phase, what's that all about?
That's the action phase, where the real excitement begins. First, you take your hero turn. You'll be using those dice results to perform actions. Each die phase corresponds to a specific action on the map, like moving, attacking, or focusing on an object.
So the dice I rolled determine what actions I can take.
Right. And remember those skills we talked about? You can activate those during your turn. Often by spending energy or combining dice results, skills can modify your actions, add special effects, or even let you convert one type of result into another.
I'm starting to see how all these pieces fit together. But what about the enemies? When do they get to act?
That's where enemy reactions come in. Once all the heroes have taken their turns, certain enemy types will react to your actions. The app will tell you which enemies activate and in what order.
So the enemies don't just sit there and wait for their turn. they respond to what I'm doing.
Exactly. This keeps you on your toes, adds a layer of unpredictability to the combat. And each enemy type has unique abilities that can really change the flow of battle.
Those enemy abilities sound like something I need to pay close attention to. What kind of things can they do?
Well, some abilities, like Blocker, prevent you from leaving a zone, while others, like Stealth, make enemies harder to target. There are all sorts of abilities that can affect movement, attack range, or even trigger special effects.
Okay, so after the heroes act and the enemies react, what happens next?
Then it's enemy turns. All the remaining enemies, including those that reacted earlier, take their turns. They'll be following a strict order based on their type and initiative number. They'll move, attack, and use their special abilities, just like you.
So it's this constant back and forth, a real battle of wits and strategy. What happens after all that action?
That brings us to the cleanup phase. This is where we reset certain elements for the next round. We remove damage tokens from enemies that haven't been defeated, return any unused block tokens to the supply, and remove stun cubes from enemies who were stunned.
Stunned. What does that mean?
Some abilities can stun enemies, preventing them from taking their turn for a round. It's a great way to control the battlefield and gain an advantage.
Smart. So during cleanup, we basically reset everything back to a neutral state before the next round begins.
Pretty much. It's also a chance to check if any heroes have been knocked out. If a hero loses all their health, they're out of the fight for the rest of the scene. And if all heroes get knocked out, well, that's a failed combat.
Yikes, I definitely want to avoid that. So after cleanup, we loop right back to the preparation phase.
It's a new round, right?
You got it. This cycle of preparing, acting, and cleaning up continues until you either achieve the objectives of the combat scene or get knocked out.
Speaking of objectives, how do I actually know what I'm trying to achieve in a combat scene? Is it always about defeating all the enemies? Not necessarily. The companion app will outline specific objectives for each combat scene. It might be defeating all enemies, or collecting certain objective tokens scattered around the map, or even escaping the map through a designated exit point.
So there's more to it than just mindless brawling. I need to be strategic, think about the best way to achieve those objectives.
Exactly. And in the final round of a combat scene, heroes must make their way to an exit, even if they've already achieved the other objectives. But watch out. You'll take damage for every zone you move through that still has enemies in it, including the zone you start in.
Wow, that's intense. So even if I'm winning, I still need to plan my escape carefully.
Right. It's all about making those tough choices and surviving until the very end. Now let's talk about something crucial. Conserving health. Unlike energy, which you fully recover during those rest scenes we talked about earlier, health doesn't reset automatically between combats.
Okay, so I need to be careful not to take too much damage because it's not going to magically replenish itself.
Exactly. You only automatically recover 1 health and 1 energy after each combat. So if you take a beating early on, you'll be at a disadvantage for the rest of the scene.
So taking care of my hero's health is just as important as choosing the right attacks and skills.
Absolutely. And speaking of taking care of your hero, let's talk about the party bag. This is where you store all those gems and food you collect during combat scenes. Think of it like a shared pool of resources for the whole party.
Ah, so I can share those goodies with my fellow heroes. What do I use gems and food for?
Well, gems can be used during those rest scenes to purchase new skills, equipment, or even more food. It's like a little marketplace where you can upgrade your hero and prepare for future challenges.
So those gems are like currency I can use to power up my hero. What about food?
Food is like a portable health potion. You can use it outside of combat to recover a bit of health and energy. It's like a quick snack break for your hero to help them stay in fighting shape. And remember, those gems have different values, which you can see right on the tokens. Yellow gems are worth 1 gold, red gems are worth 3, and blue gems are worth 5.
So if I need to make a big purchase during a rest scene, I better hang on to those blue gems. But what happens if, despite my best efforts, my hero gets knocked out during combat? Is it game over?
Not necessarily. Your fellow heroes can revive a knocked-out comrade by moving to the same zone, spending some energy, and taking a bit of damage themselves. It's a risky move, but sometimes it's necessary to keep the team fighting fit.
So teamwork is key, even when someone goes down. And even if we fail a combat scene completely, the game doesn't just end right.
Right. The story continues. But you might face different consequences, or a tougher path ahead. And even in defeat, there are valuable lessons to be learned, and opportunities to adapt your strategies for future encounters. It's all part of the adventure, Now, there might be times when you're facing a really tough combat scene, and you need just one more round to turn the tide. Well, Fateforge gives you the option to play an extra combat round, but it comes at a cost.
Ooh, a risky gamble. What's the price I have to pay for that extra round?
If you choose to play an extra round, each hero who isn't already knocked out draws a corruption card from the deck. These cards introduce negative effects. That can weaken your hero in various ways, making future challenges even tougher.
So pushing my luck can have lasting consequences.
Exactly. It's a reminder that every decision has a price, and sometimes you have to weigh the risks and rewards carefully. Some corruption cards might make those tests and story scenes more difficult, while others might directly affect your hero's stats or abilities. And be warned, if any hero already has 4 or more corruption cards, you can't play an extra round at all.
So I need to be strategic about when to push my limits. And if a hero gets knocked out, even if it's at the end of a combat scene, they still draw a corruption card, right?
That's right. It's like adding insult to injury. But hey, those negative effects can sometimes lead to interesting role-playing opportunities, or unexpected twists in the story.
Okay, I'm starting to get a feel for how combat works in Fateforge. It's a dynamic mix of dice rolling, strategic choices, and managing resources like health, energy, and those all-important corruption cards.
And don't forget about those enemy abilities. They can really shake things up and force you to adapt your plans on the fly.
I'm definitely going to need to study those enemy cards carefully before I charge into battle. This has been a super helpful deep dive into the combat system. I'm ready to roll some dice, activate some skills, and conquer some epic encounters. But what about those other scene types we mentioned earlier?
Well, hold on to your hats, because we're about to explore those captivating story scenes and those strategically vital rest scenes in more detail.
Stay tuned, because the adventure is just beginning.
Welcome back. So we just finished exploring those thrilling combat scenes in Fateforge. Now let's shift gears a bit and dive into those captivating story scenes, where your choices really shape the narrative.
I'm ready for some intrigue and adventure. I'm picturing myself, exploring the city, interacting with those interesting characters, and uncovering secrets. So what are those story scenes all about?
They're like those interactive chapters in a grand adventure. Think of it as choosing your own path. Through the world of Kajan, you'll be presented with scenarios, often read aloud from the companion app, and then you have to make decisions that impact your reputation with different factions and characters.
So it's not just about, reading a story passively. My choices actually have consequences.
Absolutely. Some decisions might lead to alliances, which open up new opportunities and pathways. Others might spark rivalries or even conflicts, creating challenges you wouldn't have faced otherwise.
That sounds so cool. I love how my actions can have ripple effects,
Yeah.
Throughout the story. So what kind of impact can my reputation have on the game?
Well, the app tracks your reputation with different groups, like the various guilds in Isafur, or even the ruling council. This can influence how those groups interact with you, the quests they offer, the challenges you face.
So it pays to be mindful of my choices and consider the long-term consequences. What if I need to make a decision, but I'm not sure what the best course of action is?
That's where those tests come in. Remember those traits we talked about earlier? Well, in story scenes, you'll face easy, medium, and hard tests that challenge your hero's abilities. And if you have a trait that matches the type of test, you get a bonus to your roll, making success more likely.
So those traits aren't just for flavor. They actually have a mechanical impact on the game.
Exactly. And if you succeed on those medium or hard tests, you'll earn trait points in the app. These points can be used to unlock new traits for your party later on, giving you more strategic options.
That's awesome. It's like being rewarded for overcoming challenges,
Yeah.
And developing my hero's abilities. So what are some examples of these tests?
You might face a strength test to break down a door, an intelligence test to decipher an ancient riddle, or a speed test to navigate a treacherous obstacle course. It all depends on the scenario you're facing in the story.
I see. So it's not just about making a decision. Sometimes I actually have to roll dice and put my hero's skills to the test. What if a story scene involves, exploring a specific location?
That's when the physical map of Isafur comes into play. It's this beautiful, detailed map that depicts the city and its surroundings. The companion app will provide hints and directions, guiding you to your destination, and highlighting points of interest along the way.
I love how the game seamlessly blends that physical map with the digital app. It really creates an immersive experience. So I'm exploring the city, making choices, facing tests. Are there any other components that come into play during story scenes?
Yes. As you progress through the story, you'll collect these really cool story cards. These cards serve as a record of your adventures, a tangible reminder of the choices you've made and the challenges you overcome. You can even arrange them chronologically to create a story deck, a unique chronicle of your party's exploits.
I can already picture myself at the end of a campaign, flipping through that story deck and reliving all those epic moments. It's like creating my own personal game diary. But I'm sure even the bravest adventurers need a break now and then. So what about those rest scenes we talked about? When did those come into play?
Typically, you'll have a rest scene after completing a story scene, or a series of combat scenes. It's a chance for your heroes to catch their breath, recover from their wounds, and prepare for the challenges ahead. Each rest scene starts with the companion app, allocating a certain number of time tokens to your party.
Time tokens. What are those for?
Think of them like actions you can take during the rest scene. You can use these tokens to visit various rest locations, each offering different benefits and opportunities.
So it's not just about relaxing and doing nothing. I actually have to make decisions about how to spend my time wisely.
Exactly. Some locations might allow you to heal your hero, spending gold to recover lost health. Others might let you purchase food, which you can use outside of combat to recover health and energy.
Ah, so food is like a portable healing item I can use on the go. That's super helpful. What other options are there?
You might be able to purchase new skills and equipment, upgrading your hero's capabilities. Or you could embark on exciting side quests, optional missions that offer unique rewards and story experiences.
Side quests.
Yeah.
So I can take on extra challenges if I'm feeling ambitious. What kind of rewards can I expect?
Side quests might lead to powerful items, valuable resources, or even unique encounters that expand the story in unexpected ways. And remember, each rest location has a cost associated with it, measured in those time tokens.
So I need to carefully plan my rest scene activities to make the most of my limited time. What happens to those time tokens if I don't use them all up?
Unfortunately, any unused time tokens are discarded at the end of the rest scene, so it's important to make every action count. Prioritize the activities that will benefit your hero the most.
Got it. No slacking off during rest scenes. It sounds like there's a lot to consider during these phases, from managing resources and upgrading my hero, to making tough choices that impact the narrative, and even exploring the world with the help of a map and a companion app. So what happens to all my cards, tokens, and other components when I'm done playing for the day?
Fateforge has a really neat system for managing your campaign and components. Makes it easy to save your progress and pick up where you left off.
That's super helpful, especially for a game with so many moving parts. What do I need to do?
At the end of each session, you'll store your hero's purchased skills, current items, corruption cards, and any available tokens from their hero board in a provided Ziploc bag.
So everything related to my specific hero goes in their own bag.
Exactly. It keeps things nice and organized. Any exhausted tokens or unpurchased skills go back in the hero box. And the shared components, like gems and the story deck, go in a separate party box.
That makes sense. And what about my progress in the companion app? Do I need to manually save everything?
Nope. The app automatically saves your digital progress when you close it. So when you're ready to play again, just select your save campaign and jump right back in.
That's super convenient. What if I want to play with a different number of players next time? Or maybe even switch out one of the heroes?
Fateforge is surprisingly flexible when it comes to adjusting your campaign. You can restart an act at any time, outside of a combat scene, allowing you to change the player count or swap heroes.
So I'm not locked into a specific group or hero lineup for the entire campaign.
Not at all. And when you restart an act, you keep all your trait cards, return any corruption cards, and recover all your health and energy.
So it's like a fresh start, but with some of my progress carried over. What happens if I just want to switch out a single hero for a new one?
That's easy too. You can do that without restarting the entire act. The new hero inherits the corruption cards and traits of the departing hero, and gets a starting pool of gold based on the value of the departing hero's skills.
That's awesome. It gives me a lot of flexibility to tweak the game based on my group's preferences, or even just try out different hero roles.
Exactly. Fateforge is all about creating a dynamic and engaging experience that adapts to your choices and playstyle.
I'm loving how much depth and replayability this game offers. We've covered those captivating story scenes, the vital rest scenes, and even those clever systems for managing my campaign and components, but I'm sure there's even more to explore in the world of Fateforge, right?
You bet. Next up, we're going to dive into the exhilarating battle mode, a standalone experience that focuses on those intense combat challenges we both love.
Get ready to sharpen your swords and test your tactical skills. We'll be back soon with more Fateforge fun. All right, so we explored those gripping story scenes, we strategized our way through rest scenes. Now it's time to unleash our inner tacticians. Dive into battle mode. I'm ready for some intense combat action. So what can you tell me about this standalone mode?
Well, battle mode is all about putting your combat skills to the ultimate test. It strips away those narrative elements of the main campaign and just throws you headfirst into a gauntlet of challenging battles.
So if I'm really craving that tactical combat experience, battle mode is where it's at.
Absolutely. It's perfect for players who want to focus purely on that strategic depth. You know of Fateforge's combat system. You can choose from various quest lines, each with varying difficulty levels and durations, so you can tailor the experience to your group's preferences and available time.
So I can choose a shorter quest line for a quick burst of combat, or a longer one for more extended challenge. What are these quest lines like?
Each quest line is made up of a series of combat scenes, just like in the main campaign, but with a few key differences.
Ooh, I love a good twist. So what makes these combat scenes unique to battle mode?
Well, first off, they're generally tougher than the encounters you'd face in the main campaign. You might encounter stronger enemies, more complex objectives, even variations on familiar enemies with new abilities.
So I can't just rely on the same strategies I used in the main campaign. I'll need to adapt and think on my feet.
Exactly. Battle mode is all about pushing your tactical limits and mastering those nuances of combat. And to make things even more interesting, you only get one extra combat round for the entire quest line.
Whoa, that's a game changer. So if I decide to push my luck and play that extra round, I need to be absolutely sure it's worth the risk.
Right. Each hero who isn't knocked out will draw a corruption card, and those negative effects will stay with them for the rest of the quest line.
So it's a high-stakes decision with potentially lasting consequences. What are the objectives in these battle mode combat scenes? Is it always about defeating all the enemies?
Not necessarily. Just like in the main campaign, the companion app will outline specific objectives for each combat scene. You might need to defeat all enemies, collect certain tokens, or even escape the map, just like before. But the challenges will be amplified.
Got it. So how do I know if I've successfully completed a battle mode quest line?
Well, if you manage to achieve all the primary objectives of each combat scene in the quest line, you emerge victorious. And based on your performance, you'll earn a rating: copper, silver, or gold. Think of it like a badge of honor showcasing your combat prowess.
Ah, so there's an extra incentive to not just survive, but to excel. Strive for that gold rating. What happens if my party gets knocked out during a combat scene? Is it game over?
Yep, if your entire party gets wiped out during any combat scene in the quest line, you lose the whole thing. So teamwork, strategy, and careful resource management are more crucial than ever.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly exciting. So how do I get started with battle mode?
It's super easy. From the app's main menu, just select Battle Mode. Then choose your heroes, and you'll be guided through a starting rest scene, where you can spend gold to purchase additional skills before embarking on your chosen questline.
So it's like a mini preparation phase, where I can fine-tune my hero's abilities for the specific challenges ahead.
Exactly. Once you've made your preparations, you're ready to dive into that adrenaline-pumping gauntlet of battles.
I'm feeling pumped already. Battle mode sounds like a fantastic way to experience the strategic depth of Fateforge's combat system, in a focused and challenging environment.
Whether you're seasoned veterans or newcomers to Fateforge, battle mode is an adventure you won't want to miss.
Well, there you have it. We've explored the captivating world of Fateforge, Chronicles of Kaan. From those tense story moments to those heart-pounding tactical battles, and even ventured into the thrilling realm of battle mode.
We've covered the core mechanics, those strategic decisions, the importance of careful planning, resource management, and teamwork.
You're now equipped with the knowledge and insights to embark on your own epic journey through the world of Fateforge.
We've given you the tools, strategies, and inspiration to create memorable stories, overcome challenging encounters, and forge your own legends within the captivating world of Kajan.
So as a final thought, how will you approach building your characters and honing your skills? Will you specialize in certain combat styles or create a diverse team with a wide range of abilities?
Will you prioritize aggressive tactics or focus on defense and cunning maneuvers? The choice is yours.
Gather your friends, download that companion app, and prepare to immerse yourselves in a world of adventure, intrigue, and strategic battles. The fate of Kajan rests in your hands.
Until next time, adventurers, may your journeys be filled with thrilling discoveries, epic triumphs, and stories that will be told for generations to come.